Good morning, my friends. Let's make another day happen. You know, for me, what I do is I have found that there will be moments throughout the day that I will end up falling into a negative state or maybe even a level of despair. And so for me, what really helps me is to in the morning. I do this 3 times a day, and by the way, I track how much practice I do 3 times a day. I mean, not 3 times a day, but the first section is the morning, and then I do from 12 until 6, and then 6 until bed. And I track all the practices I do, each of those sections. For me, each of those sections is a single day. And I really understand that when we are inspired, when we are engaged, when we are moving towards a goal, that we have more stability. You know, when you know what you want and you want what you want more than you want anything else, that creates a continuity that gives you a direction and also makes you less likely to do something impulsive. So I just really want to bring this up. Excuse me, allergies. I just want to bring this up because the importance of really being clear about what you really want. You know, one of the things about addictive qualities is that, and again, addiction is a lot more prevalent than we really think about. We really think about in terms of drugs, but I mean, there's addictive elements to watching TV. There's addictive elements to being empowered. There's addictive elements to being angry and afraid. You know, anything that brings us to a high level of intensity, we can become addicted to. You know, even saying filler words like like I need to work on, saying filler words, giving yourself that space so that you can kind of gather yourself and get back on focus. The truth is that we lose our focus all the time, and in conversations we get distracted. We don't know exactly what we want to say, and then we do elements like filler words or other elements can get involved, like perhaps losing track of what you really are working to achieve in a conversation or a situation. It comes back to balancing the inner and the outer world. I know that's a difficult element for us to really deal with, but it's a very powerful one. And, when I was, there I go again, when I was a kid, I was under so much strain. So much of the time, so much of my days, I would go to bed afraid and I would wake up afraid. And I would just end up feeling afraid all day or most of the day, just different elements. And so what happens to us is that whatever we feel most intensely, we identify with. And whatever we identify with, we are going to do everything we can to keep it going. So this is why I keep going back to this element of balancing the inner and the outer world. It's really about recognizing that when we are just completely mesmerized by what we feel most intensely, and what we feel most intensely is usually going to be external. Remember that balancing the inner and the outer world is in many ways about understanding what the inner and the outer world is. The inner world, I'm suggesting, is the world of stability, the world that maintains its structure. You have always been you throughout your whole life. There hasn't been 1 second of fluctuation. However, in the realm of fluctuation, which is the outer world, and that includes the emotions, the thoughts, and everything that is happening that we become mesmerized by. We become mesmerized by it because we're afraid it's going to change, and we want to make sure it doesn't change. And this is the whole relationship to the ego. The ego is set up to maintain itself. Now, we are about to step into the last week of our 40-day practice, and we have no idea if we'll ever have another one. So I'm asking you to truly step up and really get excited this last week, get inspired this last week. Make sure you're tracking what you're working with. How much practice are you doing a day? And remember, practice is one of those challenging terms. What does it mean? We have to practice being who we need to be. It's like swimming across a lake. Practicing swimming across a lake is every time that you check your destination. That's practice. You're making sure you're staying on course. So all the elements of practice are about staying on course and helping ourselves to realize the limitation of what we identify with. We identify with the emotions and we identify with the thoughts. We identify with what we feel strongest. And so, it's like say you're I used this analogy once with a client. Say you're driving to see someone. And on the way there, maybe they live 3 hours away. You get on the highway, and about half an hour, 45 minutes, you think about someone else that you want to see more. And so you hop off the highway and go a different direction. But then you realize, oh, I got to stay. I really got to get this done. And you go back on, and you keep going back on and off. So balancing the inner and the outer world is making sure that we're not distracted by the glamour of all that's happening, where you can't take your eyes off of it. Balancing the inner and the outer world helps you to take your eyes off of what is so fascinating. I'm going to work on that, by the way. I'm going to work on being very aware. I am working on being very aware. I'm not going to. I am working on being aware of when I'm using these filler words, because those are elements where I'm not really present. I disconnect for a moment, But, coming back, excuse me, I really want to encourage you to realize that anytime you are feeling disturbed is a moment to balance the inner and the outer world. Anytime you're feeling disturbed, that means you are identifying with the outer world. You're identifying with the world of change, of fluctuation. So by realizing that subtlety is more powerful than intensity, and the most subtle element of all is our own particular presence, because we give our presence to what we identify with. So what our actual presence is very, very subtle. So there we go. So our actual presence is very, very subtle. So we have to train ourselves to look for subtlety and work those muscles of focus and clarity so that we can keep our vision on the most stable element, which is the inner world. When you are feeling just mesmerized by what's going on out there, and understand that part of us wants to be mesmerized, part of us can't wait to get up in the morning and get upset about what's happening. When you feel that draw, we have to realize that the most difficult element of developing a meditation, a stress reduction practice, and a manifestation practice is that we want conflicting things. And in any given moment, we may want what takes us off course more than we want which will keep us on course. And so we have to train ourselves, and that's the element of practice. Balancing the inner and the outer world is recognizing right as that moment of discomfort sprouts, and then some part of you actually wants to go with it. It's about training yourself in that moment to pay attention and really truly get present. And this is why all of this is working for us, because it's working to encourage us to truly be present. And when we do, what happens is we become our true self. We become our authentic self. When many people get concerned that if they get deep into a meditation practice and they have a shift, that they won't relate to the people that they have loved. The truth is that you will relate to them more. You will actually see them more clearly. You won't see them through the sunglasses that you have on that color the entire world. So the idea of being concerned about if we are going to become something that can't relate to other people is really part of the self-conditioning that we are doing to maintain who part of us thinks we are, but that is not who we are. Balancing the inner and the outer world is one of the original elements of what I really developed in practice, although I didn't understand it. My intention was to balance the intensity of the person I was dealing with. I wanted to be equally calm as they were off the chain, off the hook. That's one of the reasons why I went on to work with people with developmental issues. I went on to work with people with mental health issues, and I came to realize that we all have mental health issues. I worked and I saw in real time, in real experience, how much desire that was not well placed was disrupting a person's life, including my own. One of the places that I worked originally was at a group home. I was about 24 years old, and the movie Rain Man had come out not too long before that. And so I was really working to get into a position I really wanted to be in. And so I started working with people with developmental issues. And one of the people I worked with was a young man who he had a lot of interesting qualities, one of which was that he was so focused on what he was afraid of that he couldn't help but he'd be trembling and moving towards something that he feared. And I realized that we all do that. So step up today. We have less than a week to go. Step up. Make sure you are wanting what you really want, and make sure you're balancing the inner and the outer world. When you feel that first sprout of discomfort, be aware that part of yourself wants to feel that way, and part of yourself doesn't want you to stop yourself from feeling that way. And activate that process immediately as soon as you can. Do something subtle. Do some breathing. Do your 10 state changers. This is the last week of our practice together, and we may never do it again. Step up. No matter what happens, if an asteroid hits the Earth in this next week, that's secondary to your practice and truly, authentically being with the people that you care for, rather than trying to manipulate everything and everyone, including yourself, because you're looking at the world through warped sunglasses. I really want to thank you so much for getting together. Thank you for any of you who've done any amount of hanging with me in this last month. I really, really feel so much love. And I wish for you a wonderful day. And I want to say to you, as I say every day, namaste. Here we go. Remember, you are so powerful. There is more than meets the eye. It doesn't match the logical mind. You have something guiding you, powerful forces that are guiding you to who you need to be. I'm going to bring my hands in a prayer position. I thank you so much for your time. And I want to dedicate myself to balancing the inner and the outer world, because the only way it can work is if you do it first. You have to come from inside out.